Hi guys, I'm Kasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome as always to our coffee times to discuss horror movies. And today I'm here to talk to you about probably one of my favorite movies of 2022. I'm talking about Barbarian.
It's coffee time.
So Barbarian had a late release here in the Netherlands. It's supposed to be released on the 3rd of November. I got an early access on the 31st of October, so I was really excited to watch this one on Halloween. I remain spoiler free and I'm going to make this review completely spoiler free. Everything's gonna be really vague because this movie is better if you go into it without knowing much at all about it. Let's just say when I went to watch Barbarian, I was really excited because I thought this was gonna be amazing. And it met all my expectations. Barbarian is an American horror movie directed and written by Zach Cregger, and this is his solo directorial debut, and I am already so excited for whatever comes next by this guy because this movie, like I said, absolutely blew me away. The film stars Georgina Campbell, Bill Skarsgård, and Justin Long. So I have to praise the people that created the trailer for this film. You do see these three main characters in the trailer, so that's why I have mentioned them, these three actors. But the trailer does such a good job to really get you intrigued and excited about the movie without spoiling absolutely nothing. If you watch the trailer, you will not be spoiled for the movie. And this is so rare nowadays that I have to praise them and thank them for that amazing trailer that could have spoiled all the good parts of the movie, and it didn't. Now, this movie kind of touches on a fear of something that could happen to anybody, anytime, anywhere, because our main character is stuck, kind of, in an Airbnb. A young woman discovers the rental home she booked is already occupied by a stranger. Against her better judgment, she decides to spend the night, but soon discovers there's a lot more to fear than just an unexpected house guest. Tess, played by Georgina Campbell, who was absolutely amazing in this film, is a woman that is going for a job interview and decides to book a Airbnb to spend the night, when she gets there, it's pouring rain and she desperately wants to get into the Airbnb just to find out that there is already somebody inside, and that is Keith, played by the one and only Bill Skarsgård. And I love to see this guy playing in thriller and horror movies. So Keith is also staying in this Airbnb, and apparently they both have a perfectly legit booking. So basically the owner has double booked the place. So they decide to spend the night there. He will take the couch, Tess can be in the bed, and they will figure things out the next morning. And it is already starting like awkward, and Tess' character does such a good job at portraying that kind of fear that we all have when we are around strangers, especially if we are in the same house, in the same apartment, in the same room, and these people that we've never met before. And I really enjoyed these scenes. I really was already super on board with the movie, and Justin Long's character comes later on in the film, and there's not much that I can say about him as a character, but he was one of the best things for me in this film. When you start the movie, you absolutely can tell from the camera positioning, from the way things are framed and shot, that Tess as a woman is in a very uncomfortable position. I just feel like the camera work in this movie was so interesting. The way that some scenes were shot from behind the characters. There were many ways of framing certain shots as well that were quite unique, and I really appreciated all the camera work in this movie. The film also does such a good job at presenting the story with a structure that is very different from what you're used to. We don't have the typical, like, you know, introduction, climax, resolution, all of those things. It is an interesting way of telling this story that absolutely worked for me. Basically, this movie starts and then you keep being transported to another time or to another place, to another character, and it all has a reason and a purpose in the storytelling. I feel like the way they did it, it all works so wonderfully, and because they did that as well, there is a lot of changes of tone in the film. I feel like every 20 minutes maybe there is a change in the tone of the story, and it's really exciting to see how all the elements start to fit in. Everything starts to make sense in the main story. Every scene basically is surprising you, is defying your expectations, is giving you something that you absolutely did not see coming, and that was so refreshing. Like, it is rare to be watching a movie and not being able to predict exactly what's going to happen. You try to predict it, but the movie's going to go in a different direction. And that was just so refreshing to me, because I do watch a lot of movies. And these changes are not particularly like plot twists, but they do catch you kind of off guard. And I really appreciated them. You know that the central mystery is in the house, but I feel like we also get some rest from the peak horror moments, allowing you to kind of relax your heart for like a little bit and then get back to the horror. I don't know, the pacing absolutely worked for me, because I feel like a lot of movies, they start with the horror early and it's all horror, and then you kind of start to get tired of the same thing. And the way that this director did it, the horror was affected every single time. It helped so much with the tension, and the soundtrack helped a lot with the tension as well. The soundtrack for this movie was quite unique, and I really enjoyed it. When the movie starts, the first scene is Tess in her car. She just got to the Airbnb, and you can hear outside of the car there is this soundtrack that is basically voices, almost like screams. They're kind of already hinting that if she goes into this house, there's things that are gonna happen, bad things are gonna happen. And I was already kind of spooked, you know. I was already like, oh my god, like, she's going to a place that it is gonna end up being a house of madness, which is kind of what happened. Now, when it comes to the horror, I cannot really talk too much about it, but I will tell you that it was chef's kiss for me. It has a combination of a lot of different elements. Now, there are a couple of things that are more expected, like, you know, it starts kind of like with a lot of tension, almost like a thriller, but there are a lot of horror elements already, like, you know, doors opening and closing by themselves and all of these spooky things that you can expect from a house that seems to be questionable. And it's fair to say that every door reveals a new horror in this place. And of course, you're also going to dive deep into that basement, that sort of like cave looking like basement that you get to see in the trailer, and there is a lot of things to discover and to explore down there. Yeah, that's kind of mostly what I can tell you without spoiling it. But it's so funny because you're kind of deciding with the characters if it's a good choice to go there or not, because you know how things end when you start exploring this kind of basement in places that you don't know. And there are many shots in this kind of dungeon that are really dark, and you're nearly in complete darkness, and the director manages to create such eerie, super tense atmosphere that it's really gonna creep you out. And like I've mentioned before, because of these changes of scenes, characters, and times, it kind of manages to keep that horror tension there and introduce you to something new that you can add to the story, but at the same time you're still in tension, you're still kind of following that mystery around the house. It keeps you really invested, and you cannot wait for the next reveal. And let me tell you, you're not gonna see things coming. You might think you have things figured out, and then you're gonna get thrown into a different direction. But it was such a wonderful roller coaster, and I wish more movies would make me feel like it. So I decided to give this movie a 4.5 out of 5. I absolutely love this movie. I feel like it's going to be my favorite, or one of my favorites from 2022 for sure. Barbarian was such a unique, different experience, and it took me in such a ride. Absolutely loved every little bit of it. It does talk about cancel culture, gentrification, and a little bit of you know, the problems of dating and relationships in our time, but those are things that are a little bit brushed. It is at its core a horror film, and even though there are a couple of tropes, I felt like the director still managed to give us something fresh and different. There are different subgenres of horror that can be found in the film, and I feel like, you know, the director really managed to push the boundaries on the haunted house tropes and themes that we have seen explored before. So I really strongly recommend you guys to go and check it out if you can at a theater for the full experience. I was lucky enough that they are putting it here in the theater so I can go and watch it. I feel it's worth it. It's worth your money, it's worth your time, and it's good to support this film. Also, if you guys want to check out the trailer, it is completely safe to check it out. It doesn't spoil the movie at all. I feel like they did a good job, so you can go ahead and check it out. If you've already watched Barbarian, let me know down below what you thought, because I loved it so much. I definitely want to rewatch it. I'm definitely gonna buy it when it comes out in physical form, because I absolutely loved it. Let me know down below what you thought. Spoiler free for everybody, and I hope to see you all guys as always in our next coffee time. Bye.